Hello and welcome to WilmingtonBiz Talk, presented by the Greater Wilmington Business Journal. Today's topic is the housing market, which has been booming here in Wilmington, even in the midst of the pandemic. But first, we will hear a message from our sponsor.
Hello, I'm Ann Gardner, CEO of Cape Fear Realtors. Realtors support this program's efforts to connect our community in meaningful dialogue with actionable insights. Realtors are dedicated professionals who build strong, resilient communities and businesses. Work with someone you can trust. Work with a realtor. Learn more at capefear.realtor.
Okay, we are talking today with Denise Kinney, president of local residential real estate firm Coldwell Banker Seacoast Advantage, and Trey Wallace, president of another local real estate firm, Intracoastal Realty Corp. And we are, well, first of all, appreciate you guys coming on, Trey and Denise.
Thank you.
Thank you. And my first question, if we want to go ahead and get into it, is about how August has been. I know we had talked about, the slowdown that you saw in July and some of the numbers. How is August going, or how did it go?
For us, and just the market in general, August was a bit of a continuation from July. The pace was about the same, overall down a little bit from last year, but still, very robust, very strong. I think when you see the numbers, I know that you'll publish the numbers from Cape Fear Realtors, I believe, usually. And when you see those come out, I think you'll see that if you measure it against July, it was probably going to be pretty close to flat. And then against August of last year, maybe down a little bit. August last year was very strong across the market, as I'm sure Denise experienced as well. But I think that I certainly don't consider the market slow. It's still extremely robust compared to where we were 5 years ago. So a slight slowdown, even if it continues, is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yes, I agree with you, Trey. I will say that, we're still at pre-pandemic sales numbers here, and that's a great market. I did pull some numbers from the MLS earlier today just for this conversation, and saw that August over August for the entire MLS is pretty close to flat. So not a little bit up still down from last year, but not as much as July was. For our company, we saw a little increase in sales in August year over year numbers, where in July we saw a decrease. So not a lot, but just a slight movement. But I certainly think that, just like Trey says, we're still in a great market, and I think we will continue to be.
Okay, and this is for you first, Denise. For both of you, but if you want to go first, what do you think has been driving the market here over the past year?
I think it's a couple of things. I think one is when the pandemic hit, and folks either lost their jobs or either started working from home. Some people, we call them moved into the basements, of their parents' houses and places. And now they're realizing, hey, I can do my job from anywhere. Wilmington and the surrounding areas is just an attractive place for people to come and live and vacation. So I think people's thoughts are, why don't I live and work where I can vacation if people can do that from home now? I think that's one of the reasons that's driving our market. I think the other reason is you're seeing people from larger cities wanting to move to a more rural, attractive area like we offer here in our Tri-County area. And with interest rates being so low, you can get a lot more house for your money still now in this area.
Yeah, those are all great points. I think that in addition to that, there is great value here. I think that people that are looking to move either into a more coastal area or maybe more vacation area just to get out of some of these cities. That's still definitely happening. But as they look around the country, at places like Florida, North Carolina, the Southeast, there's just still an incredible value in the Wilmington and the greater Wilmington area, Brunswick, New Hanover, Pender County areas that you really can't find, elsewhere. Of course, we've got some, extremely expensive homes in places like Wrightsville Beach, Figure Eight, Ocean Isle, Topsail, et cetera. But even when you go inward, there's some beautiful, golf course communities, resort type communities that you still find just incredible value in that you can't find in places like Florida and elsewhere. And if you look at even going further, looking at metro markets, if you are interested in luxury real estate, the values that you find here just can't be found in other places around the country. A house on Wrightsville Beach that sells for $2 or $3 million, it's going to be 15 million plus, depending on what other beach towns you're looking at, and in some of the more sunshine type states. So just the value I think our area provides, even though our prices are the highest they've ever been, they're still relatively competitive out there as far when you measure it against other places around the U.S.
Well, and so that leads into the next question, recognizing that the home prices here are obviously lower, especially like you were saying in the luxury market. You'll hear people say, well, these prices have to come down sometime. Do you think that's true for here, that they would come down? Or do you think, as you said, because we're already a good value, you think they would continue to go up?
Prices are definitely really high. I mean, it's not just here, it's everywhere. I personally do believe there could be some price adjustments. Depending on who you ask, everybody's going to have a little bit of a different answer. If you look at a home in the Wilmington area that maybe last year or has seen a 20 to 25% of price appreciation over 12 months, and there are some, not all of them. Not all of them are reaching levels like that, but there are some. It's really hard to imagine there will not be some sort of adjustment there. I don't think you're going to see it drop by 20%, but it could go down by 5%, depending on what happens over the next 6 to 12 to 18 months. I don't think we're approaching any type of major price correction personally, but I do see that I do believe people have definitely overpaid in this market. Some of them probably because they had to, they needed to buy a home because they were moving here. Or they, for whatever reason, and they may have overpaid. I think generally speaking, most people haven't, but there definitely are some folks out there that may be left, a little bit high on some of these homes.
Okay, what's your prediction, Denise, about the prices?
I think that we will see some softening or some settling of prices, if you will. I agree with Trey that I don't think you're going to see a drastic change in prices. You got to take into consideration that the cost of everything is higher. The cost of land is higher. The cost of supplies is higher. The cost of building a home, is higher than it ever has been. And then also just the supply and demand, which always drives the prices up, and the demand is still there and the supply is not. So I think you might see some softening, but I don't think you see any large decrease like Trey said.
I also would say that I don't think that the appreciation rates that we've seen, they're definitely not going to continue. We're not going to see that next year the prices are going to be up 40% versus 2 years ago. The level of appreciation that we've seen is unprecedented, and it's definitely already slowed way down. As far as the month over month increases. But as far as the prices themselves, again, I don't think we're going to see a major correction downward. It'll probably be slightly lower in some neighborhoods. Other neighborhoods might stay the same. But, I wouldn't expect anything dramatic.
Okay. All right. And so what are the biggest challenges facing sellers and buyers right now?
Sellers are in a great position if they want to sell. I I would say their biggest challenge is if they're trying to move into another home that they want to buy. That's their biggest challenge, is finding somewhere to go. Either here or if they're moving out, it doesn't matter where they go. There's inventory challenges all over the country. So if you're selling your house, the biggest challenge you have is the same that the buyers have. While you're getting a great price, it's going to be difficult to find somewhere to move. You know, you're going to pay a premium and you may not find the house that you want. Normally you have a lot to choose from, and it's, you know, it's just more difficult now to find that home that you want. For buyers, it's just the price and the selection. I mean, some people that could have bought last year can't do it now because the prices are too high. They just don't have enough cash. And, you know, when you're in multiple offers, if you don't have the cash to win some of those offers, you know, you're going to be at a disadvantage.
And when you say have the cat, you're talking about, you're not talking about just like a down payment. You're talking about even more than that when it comes to.
Like when you make an offer, generally there's a due diligence fee that a lot of agents are using now to leverage cash to make their offer more competitive. And that's a non-refundable deposit in most cases that the client doesn't get back, even if they don't move forward with the home purchase. And, you know, a lot of sellers want to see those right now.
Denise, are you seeing the same kind of things or anything different?
Yeah, I agree with Trey on the sellers. I mean, you know, you can go out and put your house on the market and sell it, but where are you going to go? So being able to find that next place, I think, is the biggest challenge for our sellers. And I think for the buyers, it's lack of inventory. And I agree with Trey on lack of cash. You know, you got to take into account appraisals as well, you know, so that the prices of the homes have increased so much and so quick that sometimes the home doesn't appraise. And then the buyer is left with, okay, well, maybe I can't get my loan, or do I have enough cash to make up this difference if this is something that I really want to move forward with? So I think the lack of cash for the buyers is, especially first-time home buyers, I think it's really a struggle for them.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, a first-time home buyer that saved, you know, maybe it's a millennial, maybe they've saved $7,500 in cash to purchase a home, you know, in a 250 to 350 price point. That's generally in this market, that's not going to be enough cash to win the offer. You're going to more than that. Either for a larger down payment or a larger due diligence fee. People are just, you know, people that have cash right now are really in charge when it comes to winning a multiple offer situation.
Denise, it's been a while since I bought a house. Remind me, what do you mean when you say that if it doesn't appraise?
Well, buyers' loans could depend, you know, will depend on the appraisal value. So they're only going to loan on that amount, you know, based on what you have to put down. So then a buyer has to make a decision, you know, or the buyer and the seller go back to really negotiate. The seller may not want to reduce their price to whatever it appraised for. But the buyer may still want to buy the house. They would have to make up that difference in cash to the seller.
Okay. Right. And is that happening a lot that you're seeing, that difference between the appraisal and what will
it's happening more than we've ever seen it. And I would say it's happening a decent amount of the time, in my opinion.
Okay. And can you guys say, like, anecdotally, or I don't know if you have data on this, but what are the demographics of folks who are buying and selling? Are the sellers, like, are they people who are moving away from Wilmington, or are the buyers still a lot of retirees, or what are you guys seeing?
I don't see a lot of people leaving the area. I mean, of course there are some. There always are, you know, people going for new job opportunities. You know, there's still a lot of downsizing happening in our area. People that have moved here over the years, and obviously retirees are still a huge, you know, relocation of retirees, but you look at the ones that moved here, you know, maybe 10, 15 years ago, some of them have been here for some time now. And there's always a flow of those folks that moved here with all of their stuff and lived in a big house. Now they've been here for a decade and they want to move into something a little bit smaller or lower maintenance as they get older. And then, of course, in this market, we've also seen a lot of cash out, you know, people trying to get at some of their equity. A lot of investors have been offloading some of their properties make the most of the cash that they've built up over this last 18-month period. And then the buyers, you're looking at a lot of millennials, a lot of millennial families moving here to get out of cramped quarters from some of these cities. Remote workers, as Denise mentioned, are still huge. And then, as always, again, still a huge area for retirees and people just moving out of some of these more major cities.
Okay. And do you feel like home building is keeping pace with the demand?
No. I mean, they're trying, but certainly we could certainly use more homes. But isn't that true of everything these days? You can't find anything in the store. I went to the store the other day and they were out of toilet paper again. I don't understand why.
Yeah, that I've noticed some just weird things like not being available at the grocery store. And I know that there's a lot of things that the home builders are having to wait on. And I imagine there's things that buyers are having to wait on if they buy a house that they need to fix up or improve in some way, that they're having the same issues.
I was talking real quick. I was talking to somebody the other day that works in manufacturing, and when he was explaining to me the problems that these manufacturing companies are experiencing, when COVID hit everybody, they basically overworked people to meet the production levels, and people burned out and left. And they actually lost a lot of their workforce because they were working 60-hour weeks and Saturdays and everything. And now they're having workforce issues because they lost a lot of their senior people, and they're all behind on production. And you're feeling that in construction and basically everything that we buy from the manufacturing sector is behind in production. And I think that's what we're feeling with this.
Well, and along those lines, and I'll ask you this first, Denise, as employers, are you guys experiencing shortages too, or what's it like in the real estate industry as far as having enough people and realtors to accommodate this market?
Agents? You're talking about agents or employees?
Yeah. Well, agents. Yeah.
Well, I think that we have probably more agents right now than I think we've ever had. I think the Wall Street Journal reported a week or so ago that there's more agents than there are houses available to sell. Mm-hmm. And I think that's pretty common that we see that happen when we see a market shift like what we've experienced in the last couple of years or last year and a half. But as the market shifts back, you will also see that number drop down. But you got to remember that, just because people are licensed doesn't mean they're necessarily selling real estate as a career and as a full-time job. So there are a lot of people in the industry that do this, maybe part-time, or maybe they're just doing 1 or 2 sales a year versus, like the majority of the agents that we have here that are selling full-time real estate agents. So I think you'll see it switch as the market does.
Is that the same thing you're seeing, Trey?
Yeah, I agree. I will tell you, I actually looked at this the other week. There's more brokers in our area. If you just look at the membership at Cape Fear Realtors, for example, who's today's sponsor, it's the highest it's ever been. I mean, by far. Even if you go back and look at like 2004 and 5, there's still almost 1,000 more members than there were then. And there's certainly not a shortage. I mean, if you're talking about brokers that enlisting the services of a broker, there's plenty to choose from. Arguably, probably, I would say too many. I don't think that our area, and quite frankly, our industry needs more and more brokers at this point. And I think if there is any type of market correction in the future, you'll see that number go down. I certainly would encourage anyone that's watching this today that if you are in the need of services of a real estate broker, there are a lot of them out there, and there are a lot of great ones. Just make sure that you're doing your due diligence and interviewing multiple brokers before you make a selection, because with the number of new folks coming into the industry, there's you get your real estate license, and there are certain tests that you have to pass, but great brokers need great training. And I know that we offer that, and Seacoast offers that, and so do other brokers around town, but not everyone does. So make sure that you're enlisting the services of a well-educated broker.
I agree 100%, Trey. Very well said.
We have a question on Facebook. Are there still a lot of bidding wars? What kind of offer wins the bid? How much over asking price?
There's still bidding wars. There's still multiple offers. It's slowed down a little bit, but you can pretty much count on multiple offers if you're in the the 250 to 400 price point. There's most likely going to be multiple offers. Yeah, when you get over that, it just depends. Definitely not as many, but still certainly some. What wins them? High due diligence fees. That's a non-refundable deposit that the buyer makes. If they win the offer, they pay that money and they don't really get it back, even if they end up not moving forward with the purchase. And then obviously, the highest price is important, but it's not always the most important thing. It depends on the needs and the goals of the seller.
Yeah, I agree. I encourage any buyer that's looking to write an offer now to, ask some questions of your agent to ask of the listing agent, to find out what is important for the seller and then construct your offer around that. And I think that would give you the best foot forward. I do agree with Trey with, the due diligence money, higher due diligence money that we're seeing now. And also, those buyers that can guarantee I have X amount of cash. And if this house doesn't appraise, I can pay X amount more and I have this cash in hand. Those things are helping too. But where we were seeing maybe 9 or 10 offers on a property, now we might be seeing 3 or 4. So it has slowed down. Still multiple offers, but not as many as I think we were seeing before.
Are you seeing a certain percentage of is it 10% over asking price that sellers are getting, or is that hard to measure?
I think it's hard to say, and it depends on the area and the price of the house and the motivation of the buyer. It depends on what, are you looking at a buyer who just really wants this house, or are you looking at a buyer who has to have this house for kids in school? It just really, I think, depends on the motivation of the client.
Yeah, it varies wildly. I mean, I can't really say what the average is, but it could be 5% over, or it could be 20% over. I mean, I've seen some really crazy offers, and those are the ones when you asked me if I think the prices, if that value is going to stay, somebody that pays 20 to 25% over list, I have a hard time believing that they're going to have that value, 18, 24 months from now. It's possible, but there was a great need for somebody to pay that. They must have really wanted that house, and that's fine.
Absolutely. Right. And I think that's important for the buyer's agent and the buyer to have that conversation. Hey, what is your goal with this home? Is this someplace you're looking to maybe sell in 2 years, or is this something you want to be in for the next 10 years? Because I think that also will, help your buyer's agent to help you construct the right offer for you.
Another question on Facebook. Do you foresee more climate refugees moving here from areas like the West Coast?
That's an interesting question. I guess like you're thinking like fires and things like that. Yes. I mean, I think certainly you're going to see some of that, whether they select North Carolina as their destination. I just don't know. It depends on what their work situation is. But no, I think there's definitely been people moving out of places like California for some time. And I think that that's going to continue for a number of reasons that I don't think we need to get into today. But yes, I think we'll see some of those people come here, but they're not moving to North Carolina. They're really trying more to escape something more than move to a specific state. So they'll be looking at the Midwest, or although there's a fire in Lake Tahoe right now, but they'll be looking all over the country if they're coming from one of the areas like that.
Well, and to jump around a little bit, sorry, going back to what we were talking about before with the prices, I get the feeling that there aren't really any homes or many homes that exist for like $150,000 here in Wilmington. Is that one of those things that you're just not going to find those?
You can find some townhomes and some small condos for prices like that. But if you've got a family, it's going to be tight quarters. But even before all of this,
Right.
Affordable housing in Wilmington has always been a problem. Not always, but, over the last decade or two. And this has certainly exacerbated that problem. There are price points like that, but certainly not for single family residences. You're going to have to go way down the road, living, in some of the more rural areas. You might be able to find homes at prices like that, but definitely not in the Tri-County area.
Yeah, you're going to have to go outside of Wilmington. I totally agree, to find that in a single family residential property. But there are some out there, just in our outlying areas.
Right. Well, do you guys want to share what your predictions are? Denise, if you want to start for the future for the housing market here.
I think that we're going to continue in a very good market, a very strong market like we have right now. I think that we will see, I think that you will see the closings continue like they are at the pace that they're on. I think contracts will probably increase throughout the rest of the year. And the reason is because of the new home construction. And if I can go back to that just for 1 second, but we represent over 50 local builders here in our area, and you just can't keep up with the demand right now. And what the builders have chosen to do is to not put their homes on the market until they're like at a certain stage, maybe the sheetrock stage of that particular build. And so I think as builders are now getting closer to getting to that stage, the more homes will come on the market. And I think you'll see the contracts rise because of that. The other issue that the builders are facing, though, besides just the materials, is skilled labor. I mean, that is an issue in our area as well. And I think all the builders would certainly agree with me on that it's hard to find right now. So, but I do think we're going to continue in a strong market. I do think the contracts will stay as they're going, and maybe even a little more with some new home construction homes coming on the market.
How about you, Trey? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, all great points from Denise. I think that inventory is creeping up slowly. I think sellers are going to notice this. Anybody that's been on the fence about selling, if somebody was trying to time that, if you want to call it the top of the market for sellers, it's at the top. So if you've been on the fence, it's time to sell. Put your house on the market if you can. I think we're going to see some sellers come out this fall. I think so. You'll see the inventory increase. I do think that buyers. It's going to be interesting to see what buyers do. I think they're a little bit wary right now. So even if inventory hits the market, if we get more inventory from resales or builders, it's going to be interesting to see how the buyers react. If they can, there's a lot of them have just been sitting on the sidelines, just saying, I don't want to participate in this. And you start to wonder, at what point will they jump in? Mm-hmm. So as this additional inventory comes on, it'll be interesting to see if it gets gobbled up quickly, or if it starts to build up a little bit, which in my opinion would probably be a good thing. But overall, there's still a huge demand, and the market will continue to look good. And I just think that the opportunities might be slightly more buyer friendly.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Trey and Denise, for being on WilmingtonBiz Talk with us today. And I hope you guys have a great rest of the afternoon, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you,
Cece. Thank
Bye,
you,
Trey.
Thank you, Denise. Thanks. You'll have a great one. Appreciate it. Thanks for watching.